Hello and welcome back to Jazzonomics. It's about 6:30 on January the 1st, 2025. I'm going to take you back to last year, which I mean probably about 3 days ago, and my last charity shop purchases of 2024. I've been awake since about 3:15 this morning. In fairness, I've probably been awake since about 12:20 this morning. I could hear some banging in the distance. I think they were probably fireworks. I'm not quite sure how they managed to light the fireworks, who was willing to stand outside and watch them. The rain's been pretty torrential. The winds have been high. I didn't know whether the noises I could hear in my sort of state of half sleep were fireworks or one of the dogs being sick in the corner of the bedroom. It turns out they were fireworks, unless there's a pile of vomit that I've yet to discover. I spent the princely sum of £1.50 several days ago when I went to Haverfordwest. I went there the day before to tax my car. I couldn't do it online. It caused me an awful amount of stress, so I had to physically go to a post office and do it for £20. What a bargain. Anyway, I shall get to the CDs. There were 10 CDs for £1, and one was from another shop, and that was 50p. A pretty good selection. I'm not keeping them all. Some are to lump in with the odd job lot on eBay or Marketplace, but they're all probably going to be worth more than the 10 pence I paid for them. Firstly, there is this Chapel Retro Keys, rare grooving feel-good nuggets from back in the day. I've listened to a little bit of this morning. It's an approximation of 70s funk, stabbing, sax, horns, swirling Hammond organ, elements of Isaac Hayes, the Beastie Boys instrumental stuff, like I say, sounds that you would hear on the Stax label or High Records. It's fairly derivative. I think it's released in roundabout, sometime in the 1990s, I believe. It's not going to live long in the memory, but it's pretty pleasant. It's pretty pleasant and pretty well done. And for 10 pence, I thought it was worth a go. I've got a Spearhead album here, Chocolate Superhighway, one that I haven't played before. I'm going to come on to a bit more Michael Franti material in a short while. 10 pence, in great condition, but it is missing the front cover. All of these CDs are in great condition. I've stopped buying stuff now that would be difficult to move on or looks significantly damaged. This was a 50 pence purchase, the next one. The James Taylor Quartet, Do Your Own Thing. Again, in very good condition, released in round about 1990. There'll be plenty of 70s guitar, swirling Hammond organ. There are a few tracks on here that contain vocals. I'm not really quite sure whether they'll be up my street, but for 50 pence, you don't see too much JTQ in charity shops. This is probably one of the better finds of the 10 for £1 group, and it is an album that I've never had in its original format, but it's one that I've listened to excuse me, quite a bit. It's the Disposable Heroes of Hiphoprisy. Hiphoprisy is the greatest luxury, released in round about 1992. Some of it sounds a little bit dated. Excuse me. There are elements of Gil Scott-Heron, there are elements of Public Enemy and the Bomb Squad, especially in the production. Like I say, it does seem quite dated in parts, but it is still a fairly compelling listen, especially the track Television Drug of the Nation. There's a line in the that particular song, and it's pretty pertinent to today and today's pretty political climate. And the line is, race baiting is the way to get selected. Will he Horton or will he not get elected on television? Drug of the nation. I've never really known what that means until fairly recently. And it turns out that Willie Horton was a convicted murderer. He was released on weekend release probably about 10 times. And on one of those times where he was released, he may well have committed a murder, and he certainly committed a rape. He raped the wife of the man that he may well have murdered. I'm not sure whether he murdered him or he stabbed him. And the Bush presidential campaign picked up on this. And was it George? Yeah, the elder Bush, 1988, picked up on this. He was running against Dukakis, I believe. And they used this in a TV ad. And Bush was a strong proponent of the death penalty. Dukakis wasn't. Bush came to power. And there's a very interesting 4-minute documentary talking about Willie Horton, and it explains the racial element of the political campaign of George Bush, Dukakis's opposition to the death penalty. It's 4 minutes. It's incredibly informative, educational, well worthy of your time. And there's also a cover or a reworking of the Dead Kennedys California Uber Alice on there. Well worth listening to. Something of a period piece, but compelling nevertheless. Moving as far away as possible it is to get from Michael Franti and Disposable Heroes, we have a studio album that I've never heard. Again, it was 10 pence. Don't shoot me, I'm only the piano player. It features Crocodile Rock. It opens with Daniel. Not quite sure what that's like, but there are 2 studio albums of Elton John that I do like quite a lot, and they are Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, and the double LP Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, an album that was given to me by my Auntie Pat. 2 very, very good albums. Contains Benny and the Jets. For my money, his greatest song. A bit of jazz from the charity shop, and this is called the Great Prestige Jazz Collection. 2 CDs. It contains Lester Young, Dizzy Gillespie, Lena Horne, Lionel Hampton, Mingus, Errol Garner, Tatum, Richard Groove Holmes, Monk, Sonny Stitt, Charlie Parker. There are about 3 jazz vocal tracks on here. The rest are instrumentals. The Richard Groove Holmes track caught my attention. 2 CDs, 10p, pretty much difficult to go wrong with that. Sex Machine, the very best of James Brown. I've had several copies of this, but I still think the copy that I have in the house is pretty ropey, so I thought I'd throw that in. 10 pence worth of Prince. It's not a great Prince album, but it's Prince, and it was 10 pence, the Batman soundtrack. But it does contain The Future, Electric Chair, and Party Man. 3 tracks that I can remember very much enjoying at the time. An album that I did have on tape that I sold when I did get rid of all of my tapes. So a pretty nice addition and replacement, 10 pence. And going back to the Disposable Heroes, there are a couple of CD singles here, and CD singles, is there anything more unnecessary than a CD single, or a single for that matter? I'm not remotely interested in singles or CD singles. Just too much of a faff. But this Disposable Heroes live television does contain live versions of California Uber Alice and Television, Drug of the Nation. And there's an awful lot of live guitar on those 2 tracks, and they are excellent. And I think, I'm not quite sure whether it's on Television or California Uber Alice, there's an awful lot of chanting at the end of it. F major, F major, F major. It was released in around about 1992. They're not talking about chords or the chord structure. They're talking about John Major, the British Prime Minister at the time, and the F is an expletive. the Tories as unpopular then as they are now, although Labour aren't making a much better fist of it. They're not the Labour Party, are they? They're not the Labour Party. I'm not really quite sure what they are. They are neoliberals. That's what they are. Anyway, that's enough of the party political broadcast. If you like this video, the first one of 2025, it won't be the last, please like, share and subscribe. It's still very early. There will be napping later on. This was Jazzonomics.